After playing Falconer for a while, I decided to dive in and try Warlock, or more accurately, Wordlock. I don't have very much experience with low-life builds in Last Epoch, and with all the things that say Word in the Warlock passives and skills, it felt like the perfect opportunity. I leveled with a Bleed Warlock basically following Tarek's guide, except really badly because I didn't read most of it, and just kind of copied the skills, then didn't pick up items. It was amazing, one of the fastest leveling experiences I've had, and I'll link to the full VOD below if you want to see my entire journey. After getting to level 70, I did exactly what you're not supposed to do on the Maxwell endgame Bleed Warlock guide. Convert my character to full low life by buying all of my items with Merchant's Guild, which was a very weird and interesting experience because things were either very expensive, costing almost all of my gold, like Exsanguinus, or literally 0 gold, and cost me nothing, so I got a bunch of items that I absolutely shouldn't have had, and now I can't upgrade them until I'm rank 8 because I need the LP versions. But I converted my character over to low life, and so far, it's working. I did all the things you're not supposed to, and it's going okay, which is very much a testament to how strong the Warlock class is. That said, I've just barely entered Empowered Monoliths and started farming. I don't know if Merchant's Guild is going to feel completely terrible. I suspect it is, because I'm not really going to get upgrades except off the ground. On the other hand, maybe I'll get a bunch of awesome things I can sell, so that when I do get to rank 8, I'll go, oh, look, I have 80 million gold, and I can buy all the cool toys. We'll have to see. I definitely think right now it's really hard to judge Merchant's Guild overall because, well, it's just a broken experience. You shouldn't be buying most of your items for 0 gold as soon as you hit a rank and then have nothing to upgrade for a really long time. That said, I will be talking about Merchant's Guild in more detail, making a full video on my experiences, so do be sure to get subscribed for that and leave a like while you're down there. Now going into the build, my favorite thing is that everything scales off of Chthonic Fissure. So I just fire out one button and the rest of my build is automated. Okay, sometimes I have to use Transplant to move around. Sometimes I have to use Profane Veil to dodge enemy abilities. But it feels really good. And one of my favorite moments in the early game was when I realized I could actually tank hits. I'm not super used to builds that have, 1,000 life, being able to face tank stuff. Because normally you need a bunch of damage reduction, you need 3-4k life, and even then certain things will just murder you. Nope, in this case, the ward comes back so fast, and you get so much of it, and you have so much ward retention. Even with half of the items being missing, I was able to face tank basically without issue. Now, as I progress further into Empowered Monoliths, and as I refine my items, I'm sure I'm going to get to a point where the corruption just says no, and I'll start dying. But I haven't reached that point yet. And just watching Chthonic Fissure fire away has been a really fun experience. I'm using Chthonic Fissure, that then triggers Chaos Bolts, that then triggers Harvest, Rip Blood. Yes, I know, it's not in the guide. I don't care. I'm doing it this way until it stops working. And also Bone Curse, which is a ton of extra value and a ton of damage. Then after that, I just run in circles for a little bit, watching the 300 bleeds on my enemies tick down. Most of my damage isn't actually on my gear. The gear is very much defensive focused right now, and my damage comes in from just stacking a million bleeds. But one thing I will say is, using this many uniques is a little bit rough on your resistances, and so I'm kind of running around uncapped. But since I have around 4,000 word as opposed to the 1,000 to 1,500 life that I'd normally have here, so far it hasn't really been an issue. I'm sure it will be an issue as damage continues to scale. But for my initial impressions, Bleed Warlock has been absolutely amazing. Though I do want to experiment with some other things such as Torment Warlock or maybe even a Chaos Bolt hit variant. I also need to see if at rank 8 Merchant's Guild feels fun, or if I'm going to be kind of sort of rerolling to Circle of Fortune, and obviously collecting some things to wear along the way, since I wouldn't be able to take all of my bought items with me. Now, in comparison to my Dive Bomb Falconer, the playstyle is really different. I no longer project my damage to the edge of a screen. In fact, I often have to wait for a delay, which means I'm going to get hit a lot more, and I'm going to deal with a lot more enemies. But I also have a free I win/cheat death button in Profane Veil. The mana management is also very different. On Falconer, I was used to a very active playstyle, kind of spamming all of my skills because I could use one button to get the mana I spent on the other button back. Whereas here, yes, you do get some mana back from Chthonic Fissure if you're using it on cursed enemies, but more often you have to drop it and you have to leave it for a little while, then refresh it, or drop it and leave it while it kills packs behind you. While leveling, this was a little inconvenient, because it meant I didn't pick up very many upgrades. I was going on to the next pack, and the next pack, and the next pack, without stopping to get the loot. Now that I've swapped to endgame though, I'm stopping to get loot a little bit more often. especially because there's actually valuable things on the ground. I've already found a 3 LP item, which unfortunately wasn't worth very much because no one can buy it anyway. And I've also found a lot of non-LP items which are worth shocking amounts, like hundreds of thousands of gold. Again, I don't think this is going to be the intended long-term experience, but it has been what I've done so far. It has actually worked out quite well for me. Now, one thing that I haven't put any time into figuring out is how to truly manage my health and ward, because sometimes I'll recover just a little bit too much health passively, I think off of Rip Blood. I haven't actually checked. And sometimes that lowers my ward to dangerous levels where I could get killed. During the leveling process, I didn't notice the self-bleeds at all. I suspect in the endgame, if I didn't have Exsanguinous, I would have to be a little bit careful of that, because having a dozen bleeds on you, constantly eating away at your ward, and then having damned on you and all that can be problematic. I can see why there's a disclaimer on the guide. The next thing I plan to do is farm chest pieces, since I want a 1 LP Exsanguinous. And 1 LP Exsanguinous that has something like % life on it, or possibly some bleed chance, would be really, really nice. That'd be a huge upgrade for me. So I'm going to be getting intimately familiar with Blood, Frost, and Death, and I'll see how that goes. I might even stream some of it, though I haven't decided. Probably depends on how quickly I actually get the upgrade. One thing I have noticed is Bleed Warlock's a little bit worse at split single target damage than some other builds. In other words, if you drop a Fissure and there's 3 different enemies to target, it does a fairly poor job of prioritizing, and will instead just kind of DPS everything down evenly. This is great for certain fights, but bad in others where you really want to kill, say, the Exiled Mage, rather than the 2 random rares that aren't going to be doing anything. But hey, no build's perfect, and this build does definitely function very well and do a lot of damage with very low effort, plus have insane recovery. Now last up I have to talk about the servers, because the main reason that I played offline for my first character was because the servers were not in a good state. I've since rerolled online, and I tried the servers, and they've been pretty good. I've gotten a couple of disconnects, a couple of times where the game just said no, a couple of times where there's lag. Overall, I'm not going to say, all right, servers are fixed, guys, you're good. I would say my experience has been that the servers were much better and absolutely playable, where worst case, within 5 or 10 minutes, when there was a problem, I could get back in, and the problem wouldn't reoccur for multiple hours. But as the build evolves, and as it gets laggier from spamming all the abilities, I'll definitely keep you updated on that front. And so now I'm curious, have you played Falconer or Warlock? And if so, what do you think of the builds? Do be sure to let me know some of your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you're looking for more info, I'll link to a target farming guide that I made, along with both Warlock builds over at Maxwell GG. That way you can see the right way to do things rather than just the haphazard way that I've put this character together, because it's very much a work in progress. Now before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for the continued support. You can help make videos just like this possible, and you might even see your name on screen like these fine folks here. So far, I've been having a blast with Warlock. I love trigger builds, and I actually find it very satisfying to spam the entire screen, even if it makes dodging abilities a little bit difficult. So I'm going to be continuing the build and keeping you updated on my progress. With that said, thank you very much for watching to the end. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you again in the next one.